It's August 10th, 2021. This is the regular session meeting for the Monroe County Council. We are called to order, and as we always do, we'll do a quick roll call of all council members that are present here tonight. So if you could unmute your microphones, please, and indicate by voice that you're present with us. When I call your name, that would be very much appreciated. Mr. Deckard.
Here.
Ms. Hawk.
Here.
Mr. Iverson.
Here.
Mr. McKim.
Here.
Ms. Munson.
Here.
And Ms. Wiltz.
Here.
Okay, that makes all of us that are here and present for the meeting. So we'll move forward with the remaining items on our agenda tonight. We've got a pretty healthy agenda and looking forward to all the business before us tonight here. So next up will be our Pledge of Allegiance, which we do at all of our regular session meetings. So if you'll all please stand, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America. And to the republic. Which it stands. One nation.
Under God, indivisible,
liberty,
and justice for all.
There's something that'll sound better when we're in the courthouse.
Yes. Yeah, that's pretty hard to do.
I'm not going to stand up on this video and have everybody see a picture of my stomach.
Oh, I turned off my camera too. Me too. Totally.
Camera off, I stand up.
One of the great county council traditions, though, I think, is saying the Pledge of Allegiance during our meetings. So I appreciate everybody's participation in that. And I know the public enjoys it as well, too. I hear that very regularly, believe it or not, that the public really appreciates that. So next up, we will move on to adoption of our agenda for this evening. And we have a couple of changes tonight that I want to bring to everybody's attention. First being the prosecutor's office has requested to table their request, which is item 13 for an additional appropriation in Fund 9112, Adult Protective Services. And they've requested to postpone that to the next work session, which will be later this month. They'd like to wait for the formal documentation regarding the funds, as the department has only received email confirmation of funds to be received. So there's advertising attached to this request. It'll need to be tabled to a specific date and time, which is Tuesday, September 28th at 5:30 p.m. I'm sorry, Michelle, is it August or September?
September.
September 28th. Okay, I apologize.
September.
So that we got a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on that one? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote to accept that change.
Councilor Deckard?
Yes.
Councilor Iverson?
Yes.
Councilor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Councilor Munson?
Yes.
Councilor Hawk?
Yes.
Councilor Wilkes?
Yes.
Councilor McKim?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
All right, and then one more edit to our agenda tonight. The Commissioner's Office has requested to table their request, item 14, for a fund-to-fund cash transfer to the September work session. We found that Fund 8107 Alexander Memorial Restoration Project will also need an additional appropriation. Commissioners would like council to hear that request for a fund-to-fund cash transfer and additional appropriation at the same time. So due to the upcoming 2022 budget sessions, in addition to statutory advertising guidelines, council will be reviewing additional appropriation requests at the September 28th work session. So I will move that we table this request to September 28th, 5:30 p.m.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Very late.
Counselor Wilkes,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Then I totally skipped item number 3, which is public comment for items not on the agenda. So we're going to go back to that now. Do we have any members of the public who would like to make comment on items not on the agenda? If so, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom. I'm looking here at our attendees list. I don't believe we do. Have anyone going once, going twice? Yes, maybe we do. Is that, maybe not. Okay, so it doesn't appear that we have any public comment for items not on the agenda tonight. So now we'll move on to item number 5, which is department updates. I don't see that we have any items that were submitted to us from departments to discuss tonight, but just want to check and see, do we have any departments with us this evening who'd like to share an update? If so, please let us know. And it looks like we do. Mr. Cockrell, County Attorney, has his hand up.
Yes.
Welcome, Mr. Cockrell.
Well, thank you. I just kind of want to give you guys an update. I think I'd emailed it out to the council and commissioners before, maybe a week or two ago. The commissioners tomorrow are looking at putting on a new committee for the county, which would consist of 3 council members and 2 commissioners to kind of look at the criminal justice report, especially as it relates to the community components of that report. And so I just kind of wanted to give you guys an update that it looks like that's on the agenda for tomorrow, and to let you know it's moving forward.
Okay, very good. Do we have any questions for Mr. Cockrell? Does not appear so. So thank you, Mr. Cockrell. Appreciate it.
Counselor Hawk.
No, Marty
Oh,
has
sorry.
one.
Yes, Ms. Hall.
Yes. I assume this is going to be public meeting since you have a majority of commissioners involved.
It is going to be a notice committee. So, you know, we're formally making it a committee of the county, or that's the proposal tomorrow, to make it a formal committee of the county. So yes, all the meetings would be public meetings and with minutes and agendas and the whole 9 yards.
So be available through Zoom so we can all watch if we choose.
Yes, it would be. I mean, I say yes, knowing that there is going to be a transition period once we go to the, you know, Zoom hybrid style meetings. So absent that, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hawk. Good questions. Do we have any other questions for Mr. Cockrell? All right, Mr. Cockrell, thank you for the update. We'll look forward to more information coming soon. And it also, did I see our county coroner who had a department update earlier to provide? Or was I just?
I saw her hand up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, she has an item on the agenda too, right?
She does have an item on the
She may have just needed to get promoted to.
I'm here.
Oh, good.
All right, Ms. Stalka, did you have a department update, or were you just waiting for your?
Well, I inadvertently hit the button, but I can give you an
Okay.
update if you would like one.
Well, sure, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for coming.
So my office has been extremely busy this year. Last year was a record-setting year. This year, we're on pace to pass that number, unfortunately. This year to date, we have 190 cases we have investigated. Last year to date, it was at 151, if that gives you an idea. We ended the year with 274 last year. I suspect we'll hit at least 300 this year. It's unfortunately been a busy year and a sad year for a lot of people. So just to kind of give you an update where we stand, my office has been overwhelmed, to say the least.
Okay, and I'm sure a lot of this will likely tie into the requests that you have on the agenda later this evening. And I know there's probably a number of questions from council members for you as well. Do we want to have any of these questions now, or would it make better sense just to kind of wait until we get to that agenda item? I'm curious how my colleagues feel.
Wait.
Okay.
I was thinking waiting too.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, thank you, Ms. Stalkup. We'll look forward to hearing more at when your request comes up on the agenda, but appreciate the update. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other, looks like Council Attorney Ms. Rice has her hand up. Welcome, Ms. Rice.
Actually, I'm not. I was
Oh.
just trying to figure out how to, I don't know that I've been promoted as a panelist, so I'm actually just trying to figure out how to get that
Yep.
done. If PSD, if you can figure that out, that'd be great. Oh, here they're letting.
You're already a panelist.
Looks. There we go.
Yeah, we wouldn't hear you if you weren't a panelist.
Looks like you're all set there. All right. Do we have any further department updates for council this evening? All right, it doesn't appear so. So now we'll move on to item 6, which is our council liaison updates. Do we have any council members who have reports for us? Yes, Mr. Iverson, and then Ms. Hawk, and then Ms. Munson.
Thank you, Mr. Spoonmore. I'd just like to remind the public that the public health regulation and order is in effect here in Monroe County, and that does require the use of masks in indoor places as well as other regulations. If you have questions about what this means for you, your family, your business, please go to co.monroe.in.us, where you can read that health order that was passed by the commissioners, and really encourage you to read through that. I also wanted to make 2 additional points about this health order. Number 1 is that all of the data that we're basing these decisions on is local data that's based here in Monroe County, Indiana. And the second point that I wanted to make sure that I stressed is the way out of mask mandates is to make sure that as many of us here in Monroe County get the vaccination as possible. And to get your vaccine, it's very simple. Go to rshot.in.us or call 211. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iverson. Ms. Hawk?
Yes, I met with our county assessor, Judy Sharp, and her staff yesterday. And she has on her board, a message board for us to see that the pending sales gone up 32%. The closed sales went up 10.4%. And the average sale price went up 14.1%. Went up about $33,667 from 2020. Now, we all know how the assessed values affects what we have to do as well. But I also wanted to share with you what I think is a sad situation for her to have to address, and yet she is doing the best she can, and that is working with the businesses. Well, the one in particular was a business. The other one, I believe, was a rental situation, where she had to adjust the assessed value because of the problems that we have seen with those folks who, around Seminary Square. That was the area that she had to adjust downward. And so, and then we see this, was addressed last night as well at the city council meeting, not city council, city planning. So I just think we need to lift her up in our thoughts, because that's not an easy thing for her. She worked so hard to get those assessed values to represent market value, but the market value is adjusted, of course, when they see losses. So thank you.
Do we know how many properties were adjusted down? And what the total dollar amount was?
I don't have that dollar amount, but I said, should I share this? And she said, yes, it's public information. This was a conversation about, the Seminary Square property, but she had looked at others that.
Is it residential or commercial?
Well, one of the other ones that she was talking about that had a lot of damage was a rental situation, and that I would just want her to comment on. But I think that she'll be hearing from many businesses. We've been seeing a lot of that, hearing a lot of that. Our businesses are very concerned, and their properties are, many of them, they're having trouble even being able to get in their business, and they're having to keep the doors locked. Can you imagine a business with the doors locked? And the same conversation went on with the presentation to the city planning last night, having to do with addition on to Wheeler's Mission with all of the businesses around there. So I suspect she'll be hearing from them as well. And perhaps it would be better if she came to speak on that. I just want to share that because she said it was appropriate.
And thank you. I appreciate that. I will, I'll touch base with Assessor Sharp and see if we might be able to get an update on that as well too. Thank you.
And also, and whether you've in the courthouse the last day or two, but the auditor's office is working to try to dispose of all those boxes that have been sitting around for too long. So that'll be good too. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Munson?
Yes, just a brief announcement. The Solid Waste Management District Board of Directors will meet Thursday at 4 o'clock on Zoom to review their budget proposal for 2022.
4 o'clock on Zoom on Tuesday, right?
No, 4 o'clock on Thursday.
4 o'clock on Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Any further council member reports, liaison updates? All right, very good. We will conclude that item, and now we'll move on. I'm sorry, was there?
I just want to comment on one of the council member comments, and it was regarding the health order.
Yes.
So if you are asked any questions about whether that health order applies in the town of Ellettsville, I'd encourage you to ask, direct that person to either the health department or to county legal. I did have a conversation today with the attorney for the town of Ellettsville. It's my understanding that her clients believe that the Monroe County Health Department mask mandate does not apply within the confines of the town of Ellettsville. I believe it does apply in the town of Ellettsville. And so if you have any questions about that, please have them, direct them to either the legal department or to the health department. Well, similarly, if you have a question about Seven Oaks Charter School, there's a lot of conversation. There's a newspaper article about that. I've been in touch with their authorizing agency, which is Grace College, the Department of Education, and the Department of Health. And I have no reason to believe that they also are not subject to the jurisdiction of the Health Department. So direct any of those questions. No, I'm sorry, Councilmember Spinmore, you're going to ask a question.
Was there any legal basis cited for why it wouldn't apply to a jurisdiction within the county?
I asked that question as well. The town of Ellettsville, if you remember, you've been here long enough, that they pushed back on the county smoking ordinance when that was passed. I don't think that that's factually similar. I am going to go back. I wasn't the attorney for the health department at the time, but it's my understanding that they had enacted legislation and there was underlying authority to allow them to enact that kind of legislation. I don't believe that the county or the state county health laws are the same. So the state of Indiana has divided up itself into 92 counties, and there is a county health department in each county that has countywide jurisdiction. Now there is authority for some cities to have their own department. I don't believe that same authority applies to incorporated towns. And certainly the health department, when I asked the attorney if she could then direct me to the Ellettsville Health Department so I could talk to them about their jurisdiction. Of course, there is no Ellettsville Health Department. As you know, we cover a lot of septic complaints and other types of health code violations for the town of Ellettsville. And I don't know if I need to start directing those complaints to somebody else until this is worked out, or if we should still cover those. I fully intend to still manage those, but this is going to be an ongoing conversation, I think, with the attorney for the town of Ellettsville. I also have been in touch, as I said, with the attorney from the state health department today, and I've emailed her. So, if I find anything else out, I will certainly let you know. I'll let the commissioners know. I can tell you that certainly if there is no authority for the health department, I would like to, and I asked, can you draw the line for me that says where we don't have the authority? And I was told that no, I couldn't yet draw that line. So I'm not sure if that's something that they're trying to figure out. I think that it's pretty clear. And I think the state health department's attorney thinks it's clear. We just have to see if we can get everybody else on board. Now, I will tell you, the charter school, there's a specific statute that says that charter schools in Indiana have to follow all of these state laws. And then one of those state laws refers you to another law. And that law specifically says charter schools are subject to, local board authority like plan commission and health regulation. I have sent those statutes to the charter school authorizing agency, Grace College. I've directed them to let me talk to their attorney. I've talked to Terry English, who's an attorney in town, who is on the school board for the Seven Oaks School. The answer was do what you need to do in terms of enforcement. So state law changed this year. State law requires any enforcement action that the health board wants to take to be approved by the Board of Commissioners. That was part of Senate Enrolled Act 5. Also, that's why the mask mandate now requires us to have the commissioners approve it as well, because there was that extra layer of due process put into state law. We certainly followed that due process when we put in place the mask mandate. We will follow that due process when we take enforcement action. And if we can't get voluntary compliance, we will issue citations and then follow up in circuit court if we need to.
More lawsuits.
Pardon?
More lawsuits. I just think
I hope we don't have it. I am, as a lawyer, I'm somebody that hopes and I try very hard to not litigate. But, if you can't get voluntary compliance and the public health is at risk, then certainly, you might need to consider that. But we'll do everything we possibly can to not have to take that action. But again, just please, any questions or constituents get. I know you guys get a lot of emails on things that are not directly related to the fiscal body's work. So if you get those, please send them to me.
Great.
Thank
you, Ms. Rice. Appreciate that helpful information. And we'll check one last time, see if there's any further council reports. It doesn't appear so we'll move on to item 7 now. And this is the fiscal body's annual review of the estimated property tax levy limits and property tax caps for non-binding entity reviews for the budget year 2022. Just as a reminder, the county fiscal body does an annual review of the estimated property tax levy limits and estimated property tax caps, also known as circuit breakers, and the impact that will have on Monroe County non-binding entities. And Mr. McKim, I believe, has a presentation like he does for us always, and always very much appreciate Mr. Kim helping out on this annual process for us. So, Mr. Kim, whenever you're ready. feel free to share your screen.
Thank you very much. I am always the lucky guy that gets to lead the discussion on this annual requirement. But let me find the documents. So basically, what I'm going to do here is just all of the information that I'm presenting is just culled from Department of Local Government Finance documents that we've already been provided in various forms. We are asked to review several things. We're asked to review the estimated circuit breaker impact. We're asked to review the maximum levies, civil max levies, and maximum rates for rate controlled funds for the next budget year, and also estimated debt service. I also am going to talk for just a minute about the certified net assessed value numbers that we also have received that aren't directly required by this particular statute, but are very important in determining the circuit breaker impacts for subsequent years. So does everybody see my screen right now? Can you see the numbers? Okay, great. So I want to just start out with the circuit breaker or tax cap impacts for 2021 before we look at what the Department of Local Government Finance has provided us for 2022. So I've got the numbers all broken out by taxing unit and also by the type of circuit breaker. And you may remember that there are actually two different types of circuit breakers. There's the circuit breaker that's based on the net assessed value or the property tax bill as a percentage of the gross assessed value of a property. Those are otherwise known as the 1%, 2%, 3% limit circuit breaker limits that are in the Indiana Constitution. And then the other is what's known as the over 65 circuit breaker, which is in statute, but is not part of the Indiana Constitution and has different rules than the 1%, 2%, 3% limits do. So I don't want to talk about any of the individual taxing units impact here unless anybody has a specific question after looking at it. But I just kind of wanted to show these numbers just to sort of show, give everybody an understanding of the overall magnitude of the impact of the circuit breakers on Monroe County units of government. The total impact is about almost $1.9 million, which is split, the majority of which comes from those 1%, 2%, 3% tax caps, about 1.5 million, and the rest comes from the over 65 circuit breaker. So that just gives you kind of this is for 2021. These are the actual, these are not estimated. These are the actual impacts. And just to look at the data a slightly different way, the DLGF doesn't give us this information by taxing unit, but it gives to us overall, actually broken out by the 1%, which is essentially what's applicable to homestead properties, 2%, which is what's applicable to non-homestead residential properties and agricultural properties, and 3%, which is everything else, essentially commercial and personal property, and so on, as well as those over 65 circuit breakers. And as you can see here, the vast majority of our circuit breaker impact comes from the 1% homestead properties, with a much smaller amount from the 2% or non-residential or non-homestead residential properties. As you can see, we actually do not have any impact from the 3% circuit breakers, and that is because our tax rates are in absolute terms relatively low compared to other jurisdictions, other counties in the state. But it's, again, this just kind of gives you an overall understanding of what kind of money we're talking about. $1.9 million countywide and $377,000 for the Monroe County taxing unit. So before I move on from the actual tax cap, does anybody have any kind of questions or discussion?
Go ahead, Ms. Fox.
Yes. And I tried to reach somebody to ask them in Bean Blossom Township with that their circuit breaker. There was it looked like quite a large hit for their fire under that township for their fire. And I thought, how could this be? So I questioned that, but I wasn't able to find, anybody around who could talk with me about it. Did you take a look at that? Councilman?
Not specifically, but I mean, it's almost all in the over 65. So, yeah, I guess the way I would interpret that is that they had a particularly large number of homeowners who fell into that over 65 circuit breaker category.
Right, and also because in that township, you see more properties that are under that $200,000 mark.
Right.
Where you might not see it in some of the larger townships, but I just hope that they will take a close look at it and make sure that they agree with those numbers. Because it just looked like the amount that was coming out of the fire was higher than what I would have expected. Thanks, Jeff, for doing this. This is just very, very helpful.
Mr. Iverson, did you have a?
I do have a quick question. Do you have a sense of how this has changed over time?
Yeah, I mean, this spreadsheet actually has, if I look at the tab, which is actually what I was going to talk about next, let me just go ahead and talk about this tab, and then I'll show you what I was going to show you. So this is the estimated tax cap impacts for 2022. And if you look at these numbers, what I do is I compare them against last year's. And it's clear that the DLGF decided to punt this year on estimating the tax caps. I mean, if you look at them, almost every taxing unit, the impact is essentially zero. I mean, literally $2, $4, with the exception of the schools, and also there was a Ellettsville that I believe came from probably annexation, and then so the schools, and then of course Van Buren Township, which is no longer providing fire service. But for the vast majority of taxing units, it appears that there really isn't any kind of an estimate. The estimate is just whatever it was last year. So yeah, I probably should have done a graph or something, but I've been doing this exercise for a number of years. And so I actually have the whole bunch of past years hidden in the spreadsheet that's available to you. So, just looking at the Monroe County tax cap impact. So we talked about 377,000 for 2021. It was 400,000 for 2020, 384,000 for 2019, 368. It's generally, it has not been increasing at a very high rate since, I would say, 2017. It took kind of a large jump, and then it's been remaining relatively stable. So it's definitely not. We've been staying, I guess you could say, given our assessed value growth, we've been roughly staying even with the tax caps. We haven't been particularly gaining ground, but we haven't been losing ground either. So, but I could definitely turn at least that data that I've already entered in here into a chart that would make it more obvious. So that's a good question. So I don't know if anybody has any other comments about this particular, about the estimated impacts, but like I said, I feel like, just given the fact that the vast majority of those taxing units essentially show zero change in the impact, that the DLGF probably didn't do. It really didn't do any analysis on this, and just, like I said, kind of decided to punt. So that's the tax cap impacts. Maximum levies is the other thing that we look at, and in general, we probably won't see any surprises here. The vast majority of the changes in civil max levies and the fire levies and the school operating levies is 4.3%, which is that maximum levy growth quotient. So that's generally, that's exactly what we would expect to see. The exceptions are with Bloomington Township and Van Buren Township, because those fire levies are now provided by the fire district, so they no longer have a maximum levy in their fire. levies. Instead, as you can see, Monroe Fire Protection District, their maximum levy increased quite a bit based on their excess levy that was filed and granted when they expanded the district. The only other kind of anomaly was in Richland Township, that the Richland Township had an excess levy appeal due to population growth for their fire levy, and it was granted. So that ceiling or that maximum levy was adjusted, and these are all permanent adjustments. So now next year we would expect any future growth to be on what we see here and on what's been provided in this year's report. So those were really the only changes beyond the typical 4.3% that we see everywhere else. Yes, that's all right.
Have you heard anything about whether or not that fire excess levy for Richland, if that would be adjusted after annexation, or is that all just still up in the air?
Yeah, I don't know how that's a good question. I don't know how annexation affects that at all. That's a good question. This was all definitely obviously pre-annexation, but yeah, I don't. My understanding, I've heard people talk about it. My understanding is that it remains, that they don't necessarily have to, and I believe that that's what our consultants seem to believe as well, that excess levy essentially would remain, and that they wouldn't have to roll back their fire rate or their fire levy.
Right, that's as I understand it. I just wonder if you had heard anything any different. Okay.
Not beyond what you've heard.
Okay.
All right. Maximum rates for rate controlled funds. There are absolutely zero surprises here. The only thing we see is that the Bloomington Township no longer has a rate controlled fund, because that was their the Northern Monroe Fire Territory CUME fund, and Van Buren Township no longer has a CUME fire fund. So those have gone to zero. Everything else, there's no estimated change in the maximum from the previous year. And then finally, we get the log of estimated debt service. Most of these are, again, very few surprises. We do have there was a proposed bond entered for the county unit, which of course we haven't voted on yet. Perry Township, their bond levy or their debt levy is much less than has been in previous years, because this will be the final payment of their debt in 2022 that they've had since 2016. And then in the solid waste district, I know that there was it initially appeared that their debt levy went up would have gone up quite a bit from $290,000, but through work that Mr. McGlasson and Councilor Munson and some communications with the DLGF, it turned out this was just kind of a paperwork error on the pre-budget worksheet. And then indeed their actual debt levy for the landfill closure bond will be essentially the same as it's been in past years. So this is just showed up on the paper that we're supposed to review, but it's a non-issue. So anything else here?
Ms. Munson, did you have a question?
Yes. Thank you, Councilor McKim. Would you go back to the worksheet that has a comparison between 2021 and the previous year? And I'm looking at the town of Steinsville that had a large, and it must not be this page because that's not large.
Oh, yeah.
So it's another page that was 20, it's this one. Why is Steinsville so much higher than the average 4.3%?
My guess is that's a typo, because it wasn't before.
Okay.
I think in moving things around, I must have messed up a number. I will fix that.
Okay. Sorry to catch a typo.
No.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
So I did want to then, just since I've got the floor and we're talking about tax caps, I just did want to show the certified net assessed value numbers that are provided, because I think that actually is an essential input into the circuit breakers. So let me share this other document if you don't mind. And by the way, both of these spreadsheets are in the Dropbox, so both of these are available to everyone. What I did is I just took the 2022 certified net assessed value valuations and put in the 2021 numbers, and then created an additional tab that included the changes from 2022 to 2021, just so you can kind of see at a glance. So really, you know, this is great information, because this really tells us what happened to our property values overall in Monroe County in terms of the net assessed value that goes into that. So that's after deductions and exemptions are applied. And this is what determines our tax rates. And this is, of course, also what determines, and those tax rates are all important for determining what happens to the circuit breaker. And so it basically gives us everything we need to know, broken out by the, we start out with real property. And so the net assessed values valuations are broken out by 1%, 2%, 3% circuit breakers. So it's essentially the homestead properties, non-homestead residential and agricultural, and everything else, every other real property. So business and commercial, it would be the 3%. And then we get the total for real estate, for real property. And as you can see, as a whole, Monroe County's net assessed value for real property is increased by 6.6%, which is quite healthy. And also, one of the metrics is, so we all know we increase our property taxes typically by at least the maximum levy growth quotient of 4.3%. And of course, we need to be making sure we stay ahead of that. If we don't stay ahead in terms of property assessed value growth, we're essentially losing ground against on the circuit breaker, simply due to the natural processes of increasing by the maximum levy growth quotient. So we did see this 6.6%. As you can see, there's some taxing districts that increase more than others. Ellettsville is clearly an assessed value growth machine here, having increased by a total of 17.7%. And even Richland Township, unincorporated Richland Township, has a pretty generous, pretty healthy increase as well, as does Perry Township and actually Bean Blossom Township, although the absolute numbers are quite a bit less. Then we get our personal property assessed values. So that's basically business equipment used in or property equipment used in generating revenue. And so we have our local and also state personal property. And the net is going to be that local, or the net is going to be the local minus the state. And we can see the growth there. And then we see what's taken out due to TIF. So the TIF real estate. And then also there's an amount that the assessor's office holds back in case of appeals and errors. I think it's about 2%. And that's in that adjusted, that's the AV withholding column. And then the adjusted net assessed value is basically the real and personal property minus the TIF minus the withholding. And that's what we get. And so what we come up with is net all that withholding and TIF, we get still a fairly healthy 6.1% increased net assessed value for the 2022 year. So I guess, any comments? Councilor Hawk usually has comments about this topic.
Well, I think the other important thing to look at is taking it across to see what townships ended up with a number where they could have their levy growth and not have a major problem there. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
If I'm
good point.
thinking, do you agree with my thoughts on that?
Yeah. So if we're looking here at the adjusted net AV for each taxing district.
Yeah, right. So if you see anything that's less than that 4.3 growth,
Then they could possibly be losing a little bit of
that'd
ground
be like
with the.
Bloomington City, Benton Township. Oh, look at that, Indian Creek. Is that it's hard for me to look across that way?
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing I forgot to mention is the Richland, these numbers out here to the right are AVs resulting from annexation. And this is essentially just a one-to-one that Ellettsville town gained AV because they annexed some property in Richland Township. So that's all that is. So again, all these documents are in the Dropbox for everybody to look at, but I do believe that we have fulfilled our statutory obligations. I don't know if our attorney Margie Rice wants to weigh in and just confirm that we have fulfilled our statutory obligations.
I think we have more than fulfilled our statutory obligations. I think this is great. So we can send this information and even include the minutes from this meeting to those taxing units. But I think this is fabulous, and I think it goes above and beyond what's legally required. So thank you for putting it together.
All right. Thank you very much for the good discussion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. McKim. And so if there are no objections, I guess at this point, we can direct the council staff, or we could ask the county auditor as required by the statute to notify the non-binding taxing units that council has received and reviewed the 2022 estimated property tax levy limits and property tax caps with no changes at this time. Are there any objections? Doesn't appear so. So we can, we'll just have this forwarded on to our staff to handle all of that.
We'll take care of it.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So we'll now move on to item 8, which is a report that we'll be receiving from the Monroe County Court Appointed Special Advocate, CASA. We'll get an update from Kirsten Bichet, the Executive Director. And Ms. Bichet will, you can feel free to start whenever you're ready.
I believe you're muted.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're all good.
Sorry, I didn't realize I had the control. So thank you for letting me come to you tonight. I feel that this past crazy year that the council, since they so generously supports the CASA program, that it's due for me to let you know how we have survived so far. And so first I'll talk about money. And I am pleased to say that the Monroe County CASA program is strong. We failed in many aspects in raising money last year for our fundraising efforts, which I think every nonprofit has suffered. But we were able to get in early on the very first round of the PPP loan, which also has been forgiven since then. And we got a Lilly Foundation grant that has floated us through the year. So we came out in the positive for the year, which we were very pleased of because we were very fearful that we would have to dip into reserves, which we have not had to do. Again, our fundraising was way down this year. We have some fundraising events coming up that we're taking a risk. And if people are willing to be in person or not, we're going to take every precaution to make people safe. But it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. My staff, because of the PPP loan and the Lilly Endowment grant, I was able to maintain 100% of my staff. They worked the majority from home this past year, and it was an experience. We have only been back into the office full time for the last 2 weeks. 3 weeks prior to that, we came back to the office, and then we got flooded with the great 2021 flood. And so we had to be out of the office for a couple of weeks, but we're back in and relieved to be able to really see each other and interact. And I'm sure everyone understands the difference of that. As far as volunteers are concerned, interestingly, what has happened is we didn't lose very many volunteers because of this, but we had some go on hiatus until they felt safer to go back into the homes and visit the children. We had restrictions for the last 6 months of the year, last year, of no visits in the home in person. They had to be creative and visit their children either through Zoom or through the phone. And it was really interesting the different ways they got to connect with the kids. It's hard to keep a 2-year-old's attention too much on a Zoom meeting, but at least they were able to see them for that small amount of time and see that they're okay. Our CASA volunteers are very adaptable, and I have great respect for them to be able to just go with the flow and figure out what needs to be done to keep our children safe. Interestingly, we had more applications last year and trained more CASAs last year than we have had in any previous year. And so that, I'm sure there are many logical reasons why that is. Now this year we're way down. So we're kind of paying for our good fortune last year. So I am here to ask the community to think about their volunteer roles in the community, and if they'd like to discuss what it takes to be a CASA and what is involved, please let us know. We would be happy to talk with people. We adapted our training to go through the Zoom, and we were very pleased that it unexpectedly went so well. And so, again, we lost a little bit of that in-person contact and all, but I think it went very well, and we were very pleased with that. Last year, we served 549 children that were appointed to us through the juvenile courts, and that it was in 288 cases. And so far this year, we're serving 396 kids in 225 cases. So we're pretty much on par for the same as last year, maybe a little bit more of an increase right now. What is interesting, and it was interesting to hear about the report that was earlier in the meeting, that we have found an alarming uptick in cases that are involving domestic violence and physical abuse to children. And I think there, again, it's kind of easy to see why everyone's has been stuck at home. The stressors of finances and all have increased. Kids had not been in school, but there were too many cases, more than we have experienced in very many years, of seriously harmed, physically harmed children that have irreversible trauma to them. And so that's something that we're kind of all trying to rethink on how to help these parents and what different kinds of services that they need. We have 2 events coming up that I would like to take this opportunity to tell the public about. On August 28th, we are hosting an event at the Switchyard Brewery called Howlin' at the Moon. We're going to have dueling pianos, and it promises to be lively and fun. And again, we're going to keep it as safe as possible. And then October 1st, we are hosting our annual CASA Gala. It's themed this year, the Roaring 20s, a night of glitz and glam, celebrating the past so we can secure the future for the children in our community. This will be at the Convention Center, and we're hoping that the large openness of the Convention Center will make people more comfortable and be able to social distance, and definitely masks will be expected to be worn and enforced. I would also like to add that we are now accepting applications for the next CASA training, which will be October 18th through November 10th. And it's still to be determined if we're going to do it through Zoom or in person. We'd like to do it in person, but as everyone, we're kind of waiting to see what goes on. For anyone who would like to apply, please visit our website at monroecountycasa.org. In closing, I report that the CASA agency is very strong and been able to continue full services during the pandemic. The community should all take pride in supporting the agency and be assured their tax dollars awarded to us through this council are being used to help our most vulnerable population, the abused and neglected kids. I am grateful for this opportunity to update the council and thank you for continued support. We are so lucky to be part of such a village.
Thank you very much for the very informative update and for the partnership that we enjoy with CASA and your leadership there as well too. I want to see if there are any council members who have questions or comments on the update we just received. Mr. Deckard, I see your hand.
Thank you so much for being here and telling us about CASA. We always love to get these updates. And I also want to say that Jim Shelton does a great job coming in here and advocating not only for CASA, but the kids in this community and so many good things. I like to run those things by him, and that I feel better knowing what he thinks on things. But I guess here's my question I have for you. If someone is watching this and they would love to volunteer and to be a CASA to help out, but they're just not sure that they are really up to it or can do it, or maybe they're just otherwise great, but just not fully confident in volunteering and that they can do this job. What are the things that you would tell someone maybe sitting on the fence out there wondering if they can help with this important mission?
Well, the first knee-jerk reaction that's rather flippant, it says, if not, I always say, if not you, then who's going to do it? But a lot of people do come in very apprehensive, and because it's a really heavy subject, but there are great successes. And there is great strength in knowing that you have made a very serious and impactful difference in the child's life. Councilwoman Munson has been a CASA volunteer for us. And so she can attest to the fact that we do make a difference. And sometimes the outcome isn't quite what we thought it would be. And many times we're pleasantly surprised. We are there to support you. My staff is extremely experienced, and they can help you through a case. You're not working that case completely alone. You've got one of the supervisors with you. We're there with you every step of the way. We're in court with you. We're helping you with your reports. We can be in meetings. We can even visit children with you. So it's not like we train you and then push you off and you're on your own and figure the system out, because we're still trying to figure the system out. So know that it is something that we will help you through it. Sometimes we are not therapists, but sometimes we feel that we are, because sometimes it just means the CASA is coming in or calling us and in tears and just say, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And we talk them off that ledge, and they understand the importance of what they're doing. The best thing, the most serious thing I can tell people to do is give me a call. And let's talk about it. And let me give you some examples of what can be done and what it really takes. Some people may think it's more daunting than it really truly is. But if a person is thinking this might be too much for me, then that's not a bad thing. They're taking it seriously, and that they know the role is serious. So they're actually off to a good start in the process of wanting to do it.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Bechet? Doesn't appear so. I'm just so appreciative of the extraordinary work that you were doing and the CASA organization and all the volunteers are doing. It's just tremendous and very worthwhile work that you all are doing in our community. And so thank you so much. And always look forward to these updates. And please don't be a stranger. Come back anytime, okay?
All right. I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So that will conclude item 8. And now we'll move on to item 9, with our legal department. And Mr. Cockrell will rejoin us.
Council, I move to open for discussion and approval of Resolution 2021-37, Tax Abatement Amendment for Phoenix Closures, which reads as follows. Now therefore, the Monroe County Council amends its decision made in Part 1 of Resolution 2017-30A and Part 2 of Resolution 2017-30B to reflect the values shown in Exhibit A and B. This affirmation is subject to an executed amended Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between the company and the county. The County Council authorizes its president to execute a Memorandum of Understanding consistent with these resolutions as amended. This resolution shall be subject to the provisions of Indiana Code 6-1.1-12.1 et al.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and Mr. Cockrell is joining us for this request.
Yes, I am here. There was also a representative from the company, Miss Stacy Gannon, who is in the audience, as well as maybe a couple representatives from the BEDC, Clark Greiner, and potentially Jennifer Pearl. I think this is the first one for me with tax abatements. This group, Phoenix Closures, just as a little history, they got a tax abatement in 2017 to essentially rework the old Otis manufacturing plant and add some equipment. Given the Otis manufacturing plant needed, I think, more work and had higher costs than was originally anticipated, that project kind of got delayed a little bit. And so, but now they're still believe they're able to meet that 5-year ERA window. Actually, the planning has had, and the request before you is because there's a little bit of added money to the added cost to the real property portion, but they're also putting in a lot more equipment. So the personal property portion of the abatement has gone up. They've asked to amend their original filing, their original abatement of materials to include these updated figures for investment. And this has gone through the Economic Development Commission, and they forwarded it to the County Council with a positive recommendation. So I think that is.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I was just going to say that's where we are from a procedural standpoint. I think the company representative may be able to give you some more information.
Yeah, and I see Ms. Gannon is has been added as a panelist. That's great. And I also would like if we could have our TSD employees get our guests from BEDC promoted as well too. It's always great to hear from them on these issues. Thank you. Looks like that's happening there. Ms. Hawk, did you have a question before we talk to the
question?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I should know this, but I just suddenly thought, well, are we supposed to at this point notify the other tax unit, like the township trustee or anything having to do with the change in an abatement? I don't recall.
Generally, those requirements, when we do a new tax abatement, you recall it's a 2-month process. It's a 2-meeting process. And the reason for the 2 meetings is the ERA designation. Right. In this case, we already have that ERA designated, so that process is not required.
So we don't have to notify the treasurer or anyone. Okay, I just want to make sure we're doing it right.
We're in good shape.
Excellent. Good to hear. And then Ms. Gannon is representing the company. Is there any additional information you wanted the council to consider?
Sure. I mean, if you are interested, I do have a short PowerPoint slide.
We'd love to see it. Yes, thank you.
Talk a little bit about Phoenix. So I don't know if I have access to present my screen.
We'll get that for you here shortly.
But in the meantime, I'd like to just extend my appreciation on behalf of Phoenix for allowing us to present tonight and put this in front of the county council. Hopefully at the conclusion, I think you'll agree that Phoenix is a top-class employer and a benefit to your community.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. All right, I am not seeing a share screen.
And for TSD, have we
Oh, there it is. I see.
given? Okay, perfect.
Got it. Okay. Okay, well, Phoenix has been in business since 1890. We are a 6th-generation family-owned business. We provide packaging and our clients with closures. We use an injection molding process, so we do plastic caps essentially. So your peanut butter caps, mayo caps. So chances are if you open up some of your products at home, you'll see our little logo on the inside of your cap. Our products and processes, oops, sorry, I meant to go back. And
we still don't see it, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not
We don't-
seeing that it's being shared at this point.
Okay, let's see.
And I think I forwarded the EDC version of that to Megan and Kim earlier today. I don't know if it's the same presentation, but I think maybe that would be a different way to get it on screen.
Okay. Are you seeing it now by any chance?
I've got it. I could go ahead and present it, and
Yeah.
you can let me know when to move the slides, if that's all right.
Sure, that's fine.
Perfect. This will be good for the public to see as well.
Okay, so as I was saying, our products and processes have continuously progressed year after year. We started out as a glass company and moved into metal caps, and now we do the plastic injection molding closures. So 50 patents and billions of packages later, we're tight in the industry, and we continue to be future focused. You can go ahead and advance. So our mission and vision is to be a growing world-class, well-managed, relevant, privately held packaging provider, and to delight our customers and provide value to our stakeholders. We are SQF certified, which means we are food grade quality. And so if you go through any of our facilities, you will find them in extremely pristine condition. We go through SQF audits every year. And then in addition, we have customers who require us to do surprise audits as well. So you can advance. So the Bloomington site review, the facility is 450,000 square feet. That's on 23.1 acres and was built in 1971. And this was when we originally bought it. And then if you advance, this is our vision for what it will look like when we are completed. We will be putting in offices, warehouse space, obviously in the manufacturing floor, and kind of beautifying the area along with it. We have seen that in many of the communities we have gone into, where we have taken a building and greatly, increased the aesthetics and made it a world-class facility. So you can advance. This is just kind of a floor layout. This is taking up approximately a half of the building. And we intend on putting in 12 what we call cells or bays, which will house a press, and then some will also hold a lining machine and then stackers. And then to the left, you'll see our warehousing facility. And then again, as I mentioned, that we will have offices located in this facility as well. And you can advance. And this is the timeline that we had put together. We started the demo work, the plumbing. We've already, even prior to this, we put in significant investments by upgrading our fire fire systems, and we had completely redone the roofing. And then May to June, we're doing our HVAC systems, and we're starting to onboard our staff in training. July through this month, we're finalizing our electric and doing some building finishes. And all the way up through November to December, we hope to open and be operational by the either middle of December or no later than the end of January. So, and that's kind of our story with what we intend to do in Bloomington. But it is going to be a beautiful facility. So I'm very excited, and we're very excited to be in Monroe County.
Okay. Well, very good. Does that conclude the presentation, Ms. Gannon?
Yes, unless if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, it looks like, thank you very much for the information that you provided. It looks like we have a few questions. Mr. McKim?
Yeah, it's great to see an update on this project. We're super excited about what you're doing here. I was just wondering, either Ms. Gannon or actually Mr. Cockrell may be the right one. Could you just walk us briefly through the changes in numbers?
Sure. So when we originally put together the initial numbers, it was with the thought at that time of opening up 4 bays and leaving the rest for a future development. When it came, we delayed the construction project for a variety of reasons. The construction costs came in substantially higher than we originally anticipated. So as a result of that, Phoenix reevaluated our long-term strategy, and the decision was made to optimize our production at our existing plants and take the opportunity to realign the current products within those existing 4 plants. So that provided us an opportunity to best utilize our existing manufacturing facilities. And we implemented a strategy for diversifying our product offerings by entering other product markets. So it gave us time to get into like child-resistant caps and dispensing caps. Our main product is a continua thread, the screw-on caps. But now that we've successfully launched several new product lines, again, the child-resistant closures, the dispensing, and we've had huge growth in our sales, the need for a 5th plant has become necessary to meet this increased demand and capacity requirements. So with that, we can no longer, 4 bays will no longer suffice and be and meet our demand needs that we are seeing in the market right now. So we decided to go with the full 12 cells, and that is bringing in equipment for all 12 instead of just the 4. And then we are also adding our warehouse. We're going to do a lot of automation in our warehouse.
Okay, and that is, okay, so that would be reflected, the new equipment would be reflected on the personal property statement of benefits form that's in the packet.
Correct.
Yeah, I think the original 2017 personal property, the manufacturing equipment was about $6,774,000. And I think if you look at your packet, you can compare that. I don't have 2 screens, so I can't look at them both at the same time. I apologize.
Well, it looks to me like that does 19.4 million make sense. Does that sound right? That's what I'm seeing in the packet. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Say the number that we had formerly approved. 6 million. Did you say?
6.7 million.
Okay, that is quite an additional investment. That's fantastic.
Yes.
And additional IT equipment as well, or did that pretty much stay the same?
That pretty much stayed the same, I believe.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Wiltz, and then Ms. Munson.
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Gannon, for your presentation. I have a question sort of ancillary to what we're doing tonight. I've heard from a community member who has concerns about the environmental impact of your manufacturing processes. And I was wondering if you could speak to that and to any controls you might have in place to protect any emissions directly from your plant.
I don't believe we have many emissions. I mean, it's an injection molding process. So it's the resin is brought into silos and pumped through the injection molding machines. So there's no like release out into the environment from that. We do try to reuse and caps, if there's scrap caps, we palletize those as well and try to reuse as much as we can. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
Yeah, I just kind of passing along the concern. I mean, I do have, concerns in general about continuing with plastic production, but that is not probably up for discussion tonight. And I appreciate the investment that you are making in the community.
Yes, and just so the county council is aware, we do have a committee together to look at, going forward and using more biodegradable or plant-based resins. So that is something that we are actively looking at, and we do funding for our R&D to try to find material that will work and function as it needs to be. And many of our customers have a pretty aggressive, aggressive time frame as to when they want to leave, manage their footprints and become more environmentally sound. So that is something that is at the forefront of our R&D. And also, like I said, we have a committee that's put together. We also have a vice president of corporate social responsibility. So that is one of her primary focuses, is to continually monitor that situation.
That's great to hear. If there's something that, we can do to help support moving toward more eco-friendly plant-based options, let us know.
Thank you.
Ms. Munson. You'll need to unmute.
Thank you. Hello, Ms. Gannon. This question is really to bring information to the public so they understand more about this consideration. And in your original statement, you estimated 73 additional employees as part of your project. How is this number still on course for you?
Yes, it is. We've gone through and it pretty much matches a lot of our other facilities. The employee ratio based on the number of days that we have at the facilities. So we're pretty comfortable with the 73.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other questions or comments? Yes, Mr. McKim.
Yes, Mr. Cockrell, actually, I was wondering if there were any particular comments or that from the EDC that should be brought to our attention.
Yeah.
They were fairly supportive. I'm trying to think if there were any particular comments. I think that they really valued the reuse of an existing facility. And so they really valued that. I think the additional investment was something that they valued as well. So I think those were two of the factors that they looked at.
And I noticed that it appears that we're down one EDC commission member. Is that correct?
Yes.
And And that's a county commissioner's appointment?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do you know if they've made a reappointment, or are they in the process of looking for some?
In process.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And I know that Ms. Pearl and her team with BEDC is also on this in this meeting here, and just want to check with Jennifer and see if there's any comments or anything that she'd like to add as well.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And for those of us that haven't met out in Zoom land, my name is Jennifer Pearl, and I'm the president of the Bloomington Economic Development Corporation. We're a nonprofit that serves all of Monroe County to retain, grow, and attract quality jobs. So we're excited for and we appreciate Phoenix's growing investment in the community. Economic development is about improving people's lives through economic opportunity and quality of life. So we appreciate Council's consideration of supporting employers in our community like Phoenix, and also collaboration around our broader work to tackle economic challenges that may be facing our community. And I believe Clark Greiner is also on the call here. He was really the lead for this project and may have more specifics.
Good evening, Council. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Well, my name is Clark Greiner. I am with the Bloomington Economic Development Corporation. And first, I'd like to just say thank you to this opportunity to speak with you in support of the tax abatement for Phoenix. The BEDC would also like to express our sincere appreciation to Stacy Gannon, CFO of Phoenix, for her time to share how they're proposing to invest a significant amount of dollars in Monroe County. Of the millions of dollars that they're going to invest, one of the things to keep in mind here, more than 50% is going to go toward the rehabilitation of the former Otis Elevator building. And I think that's really an important thing. You saw the renderings, is absolutely going to be beautiful. And the investment's actually going to convert that 450,000 square feet structure into world-class, state-of-the-art manufacturing facility that's going to employ those 73 citizens from our community. And one of the other things is they're going to have above average wages and benefits for our community. And in addition, they're adding, tens of millions of dollars in advanced manufacturing equipment. And in the end, Monroe County plant will be, I believe, one of the largest manufacturing facilities in the Phoenix lineup. And so the other thing I wanted to just point out again, and I know it's been said, but I just want to reiterate that, is the history and dedication. This is a 6th generation family-owned business, and they've achieved a lot from their humble beginnings back in the 1890s. They've accumulated the 50 patents and billions of products and packages that they've made. And these are name brand products that they actually manufacture. I'm sure every one of us in our homes have them right now. And I think because of the growth of the company over that long period of time, I think the Phoenix management and their employees have demonstrated excellence in their business for more than a century and are considered leaders in the industry by their peers. So I think that's a very telling thing. So of course, as Ms. Gannon indicated, Phoenix is expanding rapidly in the markets, and we really need the support of the Monroe County Council to continue their winning ways. So the BEDC, we just encourage the council to look upon this significant investment favorably. I think it does so much for our county, and we look forward to your support. So thank you for your time and all that it considers.
Thank you, Mr. Greiner and Ms. Pearl, for that information as well. And I guess we'll check and see if there's any final questions or comments from council before we go to public comment. Mr. Deckard.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the information given to us. And when this original abatement went through, I wasn't on council, so it's awesome to see this come back through. And as I was looking through materials earlier, a big thing that stood out for me is that the use of the former Otis manufacturing plant and jobs created on Curry Pike. And I know that we've had some times in our history when jobs have left facilities on Curry Pike, and it is good to see things happening there. I always hope that we don't have massive job losses in this community. This is a good example of some good news, good opportunity to do that. as we continue to move forward and see sort of the evolution of what happens on that economic development corridor. So I appreciate very much this coming today, and I'm going to support this for many of those reasons and the diversification of jobs that will bring to this community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deckard. Ms. Hawk?
When do you anticipate the hiring to begin, or where are you on that to reach your 73?
That's a great question. We currently have 4 employees hired for this facility. We have our lead engineer, we have our plant manager, we have an office admin and an HR person. And we're going through the interview process to start now looking for the supervisors, and we'll kind of go down from there. One of the great benefits of being in Monroe County is that we also have a facility in Greencastle, Indiana, which is a couple of hours south. And we will be training in that facility in the interim before this plant is open, so that the employees will be ready and able to go in as soon as the facility is opened.
I would certainly encourage you to look for employees that are residents of Monroe County, and whenever possible.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Okay, and Mr. Iverson?
Yes, Ms. Gannon, I just want to extend my encouragement and support and thanks for you being here tonight and bringing this opportunity to the Monroe County Council. I just wanted to point one additional element out, I think, to the public, that the 73 jobs come at a hefty investment in terms of wages, and it seems like you're paying a really decent wage to these employers. I wanted to offer you an opportunity to talk maybe about the cost of living in Bloomington and Monroe County is not the cheapest, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about these great jobs that you're creating.
Sure. The average hourly rate based on 2,080 hours is about $27 an hour. But also keep in mind we have some, outliers to that number. The high being around $56 an hour to about $19 an hour. But in addition to that, we estimate our benefits the benefits package we would offer would be about $18,000 to $25,000, depending on the medical plan they choose, which would come out to an additional $8 to $12 an hour on top of what we are paying them.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty livable wage to me.
Very good. Yes, all great information there. Thank you very much.
We do also offer our employees, as part of our, giving back to the community, we offer our employees 8 hours of volunteering time a year, in which they can use that however they see fit, to go out and volunteer in the community, as well as we have a company matching program. So when the employees give to a charity, the company matches for that. So we are always looking for ways to become involved in the community, and we encourage local involvement at each of our facilities.
Great. Excellent. Thank you. All right. Do we have anything further from council? Do we have any public comment on this request? Seeing none, we will have a roll call vote, please.
On the motion to approve Resolution 2021-37, Councilor Wells?
Yes.
Councilor Munson?
Yes.
Councilor Hawk?
Yes.
Councilor Iverson?
Yes.
Councilor McKim?
Yes.
Councilor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Councilor Deckard?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to item 9B.
Council, I move to open for discussion and approval ordinance 2021-29, joint ordinance of the Monroe County Council and Board of Commissioners approving the transfer of a parcel which is described as part of the southeast section of 17-10-2 West, Plat 39, containing 0.25 acres, more or less, subject to all easements of record for consideration to the town of Steinsville, Indiana, which reads as follows. Now therefore be it resolved by the Commissioners and the Monroe County Council that the attached quitclaim deed transferring the parcel to the town of Steinsville, Indiana should be executed, and that the Commissioners are hereby authorized to do so, adopted this 10th day of August 2021 by the Council.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. And Mr. Cockrell, are you joining us for this one as well?
Mr. Spoonmore, this is Dave Schilling.
Oh,
I'll be
Mr.
handling this
Schilling.
for the legal department.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah, this ordinance relates to a quarter-acre parcel located at the corner of North Columbia and Main Streets in Steinsville, Indiana, and that is just across the street to the west from the Steinsville School. The parcel was sold in a 2008 tax sale, and the purchaser obtained a tax deed for the parcel in 2010, and by 2012 it concluded that it was not a worthy holding and quitclaimed it to the county for $1. We recently received a letter from Steinsville, the town of Steinsville, expressing a desire to obtain the property for use as a flower garden and maybe sort of a small park to put a park bench there or whatever. And so the commissioners are interested in making that transfer, but under state law, any transfer of real property over $1,000 in value has to be approved by the county council. So that's why it's before you today. And the process for transferring this to Steinsville without any consideration or no sale price is that the legislative bodies and the fiscal bodies of each unit adopt a substantially similar ordinance. So this will take care of the council's part. The town of Steinsville attorney has assured me that they've prepared the ordinance for the town to approve.
Got it. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let's see if there's any questions from council members for you. Ms. Hawk, I see your hand.
Not a question, really, more like a comment. Steinsville has such a great community spirit, great volunteerism for such a small community. Just this past weekend, they had if you noticed that they had that great car show. It was like these Volkswagens that were just some of them really amazing, and Kelsey McLaughlin is just, I mean, she's a county employee, so just want to say kudos to her because she's constantly putting items on Facebook, building up Steinsville and the enthusiasm there. So I'm just delighted that we're able to do this, and I know that they'll make sure it's beautiful.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Hawk. Any other comments or questions from council? Okay, does not appear so. We'll see if there's any public comment. Have any public comment on this request? Seeing none, Ms. Miller, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
On the motion to approve ordinance 2021-29, Councilor Hawk?
Yes.
Councilor Wiltz?
Yes.
Councilor Deckard?
Yes.
Councilor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Councilor Munson?
Yes.
Councilor McKim?
Yes.
Councilor Iverson?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. And up next is item 10, our Highway Department.
Council, I move to approve the Highway Department's request for an additional appropriation in Fund 1135-001 0000 cumulative bridge in the amount of $800,000 in the services category.
Second.
Okay, and Lisa Ridge, our Highway Public Works Director, is with us this evening, I believe.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Welcome, Ms. Ridge. Yes.
And I'm guessing you just read the Cume Bridge. Is that correct? I just want to make sure I was on the right item.
Yes.
So we are needing to ask for this additional to appropriate more funding into the two bridges. One is Roger Street Bridge 908 and North Shore Drive Bridge, which is Bridge 193. We are rehabilitating and replacing the bridges. Roger Street Bridge is a community crossing matching grant awarded project. Half the cost of this bridge, which is $386,264.21, is from NDOT. I did look today, that money has been deposited into the Cume Bridge cash. So actually for Roger Street, the local cash portion would be $113,735.79. And the other, which is under construction at this point. And then the other one is North Shore Drive Bridge for an additional of $300,000. We will be doing that one in this late fall, spring, just due to the material costs and the delay in materials at this time. And I would be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you. And who has questions or comments? For Ms. Ridge, yes, Ms. Hawk.
The one that we're doing without any matching dollars, are we able to do that in-house with our staff, or do we have to?
We have to contract anything over 250,000. We can't use our crews if it's over that amount. I believe the estimate for that project is approximately 400,000. We already have 100,000 in that line, so we have to bid this project out.
Okay, great. I didn't hear those numbers before. Thanks.
Okay, is that answered everything for Ms. Hawk? Any other questions or comments? Yes, Ms. Welps.
Could you just give us an idea of the location of these two projects?
Sure. The North Shore Bridge is, of course, on North Shore Drive, and it is south of Anderson Low Gap intersection and before Spillway. So it's within that area of the bridge replacement there. Roger Street Bridge is just north of 11th Street. It just closed last week and went under construction. It should be closed for approximately 30 days. And we worked with the city public works department, everything signed for pedestrian and motorist detour routes.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Anything else from council? All right, is there any public comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
On the motion to approve additional appropriations in Fund 1135-0000, Councilor Hawk?
Yes.
Councilor McKim?
Yes.
Councilor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Councilor Iverson?
Yes.
Councilor Wiltz?
Yes.
Councilor Munson?
Yes.
Councilor Deckard?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Okay, very good. And next we'll move on to item B for the Highway Department.
Council, I move to open for discussion and approval the Highway Department's request to change a part-time hourly position to a full-time position in Fund 1176-0531.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Ridge.
So I come before you. We have this part-time position. It has been in existence for, I'm going to say probably 25 plus years. We've usually had maybe a retired person that wanted to come in and do the mowing, do different things around our facility that we have not been able to have done. We would like to make this position a full-time position. In the highway department, we have not created a new position. I know stormwater and bridge crew have, but out of the MVH fund, we have not added a full-time position. Probably 20 plus years that I know of. We have maintained, we've stayed the same. But looking at this position right now is actually one of our retirees. He worked for us for over 30 years. He knows how the county works. He would like to work full-time again at the county, but not be in the union and not be out doing snow removal. He feels like he's done his time for that, but he would love to still assist at the county. We use him to go pick up for the calls for the dead deers. We use him if we need him to get on a piece of equipment because he still has an active CDL license to be able to move equipment if need be. We use him to snowplow our parking lot in the winter. We use him for our sidewalks. We use him for our mowing, our landscaping, our vacuuming, our cleaning our bathrooms. He will do anything for our department that we ask. He's currently working 2 jobs, and he would like, he is very much interested in a full-time position back at the county, just in a different role. We felt that this would be a full-time position that would always be needed, whoever served in that position. And again, over the years, we have not increased our staff for the highway, even though we've grown mileage-wise and adding on stormwater and Cume Bridge. All of our admin staff do all the admin work for those 2 additional divisions of the department. I know it was stated today in an email that WIS did not have an updated or have a job description for this. I did submit this back in December of 2020 as a part-time position. So there was to be a job description established at that time. I redid the job description again today, basically word for word, except stating it would be a full-time and not a part-time. Same duties, everything. So there should really be the process of a job description for this position. It probably has not been officially approved by the council since they have not approved all the new job descriptions. However, I just hate to start back over the process. It's time consuming because even on this timeline right now, I'm told I'm looking at October before that I can get anything completed with this. And starting in June or July with it, it seems like a long process. And I'm not knocking your process. I understand there is a process, but I hate to go back and start back over with WIS when they did have a job description back December 1st of 2020.
Go ahead, Ms. Ridge.
So that's it. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, and thank you for the information, and I understand where you're coming from there. I think on the time frames, and hopefully we can address this quickly in a reasonable time frame for you. And also appreciate the information that you shared about this particular employee, and just really love to hear about that team player mentality. And I think, so many of our county employees reflect that. And this is just another great example. So it's always good to hear about that. Thank you very much. So one of the questions that I have maybe first, and I also want to have Mr. Deckard weigh in because he is our PAC president. And we did have a discussion about this at a recent PAC meeting. And so I'll ask him to provide some information here shortly, but just for Ms. Shell and also Ms. Rice, with this position, so we've got my understanding is we got the part-time position, and essentially what I heard Ms. Ridge say, and she said at the last PAC meeting as well too, this is the job description we want for this role. It's currently a part-time position. We just want more of that work being done to turn it into a full-time position. So at this point, we just need to have that that job factored, or do we already have that done? Do we know what the classification would be?
Now, council requested that departments submit job descriptions for permanent part-time, okay? And to create job descriptions. So those were submitted along with the other job descriptions that have been reviewed. So yes, that position was submitted as a part-time position. Those part-time positions are not classified. So we currently cannot establish a classification for that. That would have to go through WIS. So it's just classified as part-time. There's no level or anything with it. And we haven't actually received it back from WIS as even a job description. We have a draft. We have received a draft, but council has not approved any of the permanent part-time job descriptions, and they haven't approved any of the other jobs. So it's in that packet that WIS is going to submit to you guys at the work session.
Okay.
Let me ask a question. When they submit that packet, will it have the classifications in there?
For the full-times, I don't know about the permanent part-times because we've never had permanent part-time job descriptions before. So I could not answer that.
I think, and this might be a Lisa question, I don't know, is the job that's being requested to be moved from part-time to full-time, we have other jobs just like that one in the county?
No, because all the other men out there are union. We don't want this to be a union position. We don't want it to be a LTC with, and it's just like a custodial maintenance technician job that.
I get the difference in the union.
But no, there's not another job in the highway department that compares to this. No.
There's not even, I mean, I get the non-union change. The difference between union and non-union, but in terms of duties, the kinds of things that this person did, this is a absolutely unique one. Is that right?
Well, I guess I wouldn't call it unique. It's just been a part-time position that's been utilized for the extra little duties that we don't assign to our full-time staff. It was just something that was created that we never had anybody to clean our building before. Now we have somebody, I think, once a month, but once a month isn't enough when you have 40 plus people. So this person has always come in, emptied the trash, ran the vacuum, and then they'd go get, like I said, dead deer, they mow our lot, they weed eat. It's that kind of position. It's just it's not your typical truck driver, equipment operator position.
Right, and I think that's why we need to make sure that WIS classifies this, because even our current maintenance people that we have that are not union that we have in our facility are LTC. So LTC just does not mean truck driver. That is classification for labor, trades, and I can't remember the other one, but.
Yeah, okay.
So I agree that a classification would be required. So I think that one option that the council has certainly to approve, if you like the concept of, we want this position and we want it full time, you could approve it contingent upon getting an approved job description and getting the right classification. Obviously, you're going to have to amend the salary ordinance anyway, to put those things in there. So I think Kim Michelle's correct that we would need a classification. And so, if you guys, I think you're being asked tonight, really because it's got a budgetary impact. And I know Kim's going to say, hey, the classification is going to affect the salary. Did I read your mind, Kim? Yeah.
And they also have to assign the level of the classification. Where is this going to fall? That is also going to determine what the salary is going to be, as well as the FLSA status, which is exempt or non-exempt. So we need that information from them. That is something nor Elizabeth is capable of doing.
Now, I could tell you, from
work, knowing what the FLSA sort of says about exempt or non-exempt, I can tell you this will be a non-exempt.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But
I wasn't asking anybody to go against the process. I wasn't not asking anybody, or have I asked anybody not to send this to WIS? My problem was that I completed a full job description in December, and I had to turn around and redo it today to change one box to full-time.
So just to sort of get where I think we want to go, which is what's the council being asked to do today? I think the council's being asked to say, do you fundamentally, from a physical standpoint, want to make this part-time position full-time? And if the answer to that is yes, then I think you approve it contingent upon WIS classifying it, getting all of the business that they have to do done, and so that we know where to place it in our system.
Yes, and Lisa's wanting that full-time position for the remainder of this year, not just to be for 2022. So she, so we need to, you need to know that as well. So I mean, it's to add a full-time position this year as well.
Yeah. So if you wanted to do that, I think you would vote tonight to approve this contingent upon us getting that information, which it sounds like we're going to be able to get in a couple of weeks. I think we could probably, if WIS is already doing their thing, they could probably just fix.
That was going to be my next question. How quickly, Kim, do you think we could get the information?
I could send it to them, and I'll just ask them, when do they think they could get it back to us?
Okay.
But once we get it back, the process is for it to go to PAC for review and recommendation. But I mean,
yep.
Let me.
That's the thing. I just feel like we make one exception and not follow the process. Who else are we going to make exceptions for?
I'm not asking for an exception.
I know. I'm just trying to put that out there. I just would like to maintain a process and not bypass the process all the time.
So I guess my question on that process, so I understand, you go to the PAC to ask for a recommendation for this to go from part-time to full-time. PAC did no recommendation because they said it is a council decision. So I come to the council to get approval for that, and then I have to go back to PAC. And then I have to get approval from PAC to go back to council.
And that's part of our problem and part of my problem. We need to make clear what this process is. But as my understanding is that things go to PAC and then it goes to council. So that was my understanding when we started this whole process. So, that is what I've been doing. So.
And I think this one is a little different in the sense that when we talked at PAC, we thought, and I think everybody in good faith thought we had a job description and classification, and it was already, ready to go and just take it to the council and we'd be ready to go. If there's a hiccup in it, I think it's purely, it's, again, everybody was operating in good faith. It's my understanding when we talked back that we thought we had everything we needed because, yes, we have a job description. So if there was a hiccup, I think the fact that WIS is already right in the midst of doing this for us, they're going to be coming to address the council later this month anyway. We asked them to get this one done and worked into the system that you're going to be adopting. You're in the process of adopting something. So this is pretty good timing for a hiccup if we had to have one. And so I would recommend that we send this off to WIS, ask them to get it back and have it to us for our meeting on the 24th. And then you can, get the salary ordinance and all that business updated if that's acceptable to everyone.
I'm sorry. Okay. I was getting some feedback there, and I want to check with Mr. Deckard and then Mr. McKim. I've seen this hand up there too.
Thank you very much. And I do want to say, Ms. Ridge has been before PAC with this, presented this to PAC, as has been mentioned. This was then sent to council, and she's now explained it to both bodies twice. As PAC chair, I want to make sure absolutely we're following processes we need to follow. I would note we have processes so the public is informed of what is happening with these positions. This position, as much as any other, has been very well discussed at this point. And so I would support whatever solution Ms. Rice and Michelle think we can do to get this lawfully process followed before the council in the best way that can put that consideration before us and then move forward either way, whatever the council would decide.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Mr. McKim, and then Ms. Munson.
Actually,
and then
I think Ms. Munson actually was there before.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Let me unmute. I watched the PAC meeting and Ms. Ridge's presentation, and I listened at length to WIS's recommendations. They were very firm in advising us that we needed to have rigorous procedures for handling our personnel appointments and classification. And I think what Ms. Rice and Michelle just proposed sounds like it would work within the system that WIS is advising us to follow. So I hope Ms. Ridge won't have to come back for another round, because I think she's done her due diligence on this.
Thank you. Mr. McKim.
Yeah, I mean, so just real quick, Michelle, you mentioned sending something to WIS. Do they not have this current position description? I mean, other than the distinction between full and part-time, they already have job description, right?
They have the job description, and I was told by the representatives that when a job description is going to be classified, reclassified, it must be accompanied with a questionnaire. And so since this was formally sent to them as a part-time job description, I wanted to ensure that whatever Lisa was tweaking to this job, that it was addressed on this questionnaire. So the questionnaire that she completed today will accompany the request for this to become full-time. And that is a form that they require from this point moving on. Am I correct, Margie? They want forms, their WIS forms completed and accompany any requests.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it sounds to me like they've got the bulk of what they need. They just need the form and should be able to turn it around. Because from what I know about the classification system, and I frankly think everybody who's talking here, we're all saying this, we're all saying what's right. Mm-hmm. And I think that what Kim's saying is 100% right. And I think that going from part-time to full-time is not going to change the duties. It's not going to change sort of the meat of the matter. So I think if WIS already has had this job description since December, they've probably already got in their head where it would need to be in terms of our classification schedule, if that makes sense.
So are we all in agreement then that this doesn't need to go back to PAC, that we just get the questionnaire to WIS? They can provide the classification. We need the classification. I think we all are in agreement that we need the classification. We can't move forward without the classification, but also that that we don't need to send this back through committee or anything like that, that this can.
If there's anybody opposed to the concept of this position going from part-time to full-time, there's fiscal impact of that. State it now. Otherwise, let's just get Ms. Hawk.
Yes. At the time when this was mentioned, I was so involved in trying to figure out where we were going to end up with the annexation, how that was going to affect everything. But you know, the bottom line is Ms. Rich knows that her dollars do not come to her through the income tax. That's not how she supports, you know, her budgets. And so while we know we could see a hit with the income tax, that's not going to affect her budgets. She has other things that could affect her budgets, but it is really going to be up to them to keep a close eye on it. And if this is something they feel like is something they want to add a position, and then they may have to do some adjustments down the road, they'll tell us where. They've always had to be the ones looking at what kind of money they have. It's not like a part of county general or anything. So by the time this all happens, we maybe will know where the six.
Well, and since you brought up the budget, Marty, I have looked ahead. I will not need an additional if this is approved for a full-time position. I have enough in the other lines that I can transfer to get through 2021 without an additional for this.
Okay. Ms. Wiltz.
Thanks, actually, Councillor Hawk, for that, because that was important information in my mind. Also, I have a question that's just going to expose my naivete on the whole thing, but here it goes. It was mentioned that we maybe didn't want this position to be a union position. My question is that when it was stated, that was just based on the desire of the current employee. I'm wondering what we usually use to make that determination.
When we created this job, and it wasn't because it's just that person has never done the duties of the normal full-time employees. They are on a call-out list. They work weekends, they work nights, they drive the dump trucks, they go out patching. This job has never done all those duties on a normal basis. The only time they would fill in is like if we needed a flagging position open, but it's not, it's never been part of, especially since it's been part-time, it's never been a job that's ever been classified within their union, I guess, is a way to put that. It's not going to be a truck driver. It's not going to be a sign person. It's not going to be an equipment operator. It's basically working on the grounds at the facility.
And just to address that, I would think that that is obviously something we'd want to have WIS weigh in on when they're looking at this, knowing that it's going part-time to full-time. What we ask them to do is look at our overall structure and say, where should this job fit in your overall structure? Because it's supposed to be one system. So that may be something that WIS wants to weigh in. As you all know, we say this a lot of times, we write job descriptions and we're supposed to do a system that's based on what Monroe County needs, not person-specific positions. So I don't know what WIS will come back and say about having this position outside the union or inside the union. I don't know if they're going to care or what they're going to say, but that's clearly something that they'll want to look at and see where it fits in our system.
And I totally agree with that, Margie. And I do know that in the past, in dealing with WIS and the union, and when we've had union negotiations, WIS has stepped back. They don't typically get involved because we actually have two positions that are within the union. Once those positions are not filled and they are vacant, it's in their contract that those two positions will be eliminated from the union because they're basically admin jobs. So we do address some of these positions within the union contract, but WIS has never wanted to be a part of, I guess, those decisions in the past. It could be different today, but so.
Okay. So bottom line is that we will get information from WIS about at least whether or not this type of position or this position in particular would or should be in a union.
Yeah, or if they don't have an opinion. Right. I think they'll say yes, no, or I don't care. That's a roll call.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Margie.
Ms. Hawk?
Yes, Ms. Ridge, when you're saying admin jobs, you're saying administrative positions.
Yes. There's two positions at the county garage that is basically more administration jobs rather than LTC jobs.
The reason I asked that is that I thought, now are you saying it has to do with?
No,
it's got to be administration. Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to go into all of this. I know I sent my liaisons and Kim our major bullet concerns with the WIS report and coming back and the grids, which creates a problem for us. So I'd be happy to sit down and discuss all of that. I'm a little bit nervous that WIS will come back with a packet and you approve all the grids and the job descriptions as is. Not sure of your process, but when Kim sends you all of our concerns, we had about 8 bullet points of why we have real concerns with throwing everybody into the same LTC grid. And we put in there the problems that will arise from that. So, so yeah, that's probably a different topic for a different day. But yes, the highway union men used to be a part of the LTCs years ago. And then it was decided by WIS to take them out and have their own grid. And it has worked well for the department and the union. And now they want to throw them back all into the grid. And they took them out years ago for a reason.
And
So
we're compiling all we're receiving a lot of feedback and questions from departments, and we've added your information and it was very helpful. And
thank you. I
also want to, encourage departments. I think tomorrow is the last day to submit the feedback, or is today?
It was today.
Okay. So appreciate all the feedback that we've received on that. We'll submit that to WIS and ask the questions and get their feedback as well too.
Appreciate it. No, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know you haven't been a big agenda. I apologize.
Mr. McKim, it looks like has a comment or a question.
Yeah, well, I guess I just like to kind of move on this. Yeah. So I'd like to make a motion that we postpone this item indefinitely with the or pending receipt of WIS classification, with the understanding that this does not have to be represented to PAC, but instead can go directly to council.
Second.
Okay.
Said second.
There were several.
Any questions or comments on the motion? Any public comment? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote.
Councillor Deckard?
Yes.
Councillor Wiltz?
Yes.
Councillor McKim?
Yes.
Councillor Munson?
Yes.
Councillor Hawk?
Yes.
Councillor Iverson?
Yes.
Councillor Spumore?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
I do want to make one thing that in the past, when I've submitted job descriptions to WIS to be classified, they normally give me, it's going to take 2 weeks. So I will find out if they will be able to have it ready and included for the work session. And I'll keep everybody posted to that.
Okay.
Thank you. Hopefully, because they already have the content of the description.
Correct.
They can move that on.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Ms. Ridge.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch soon. Okay, so up next is item 11, the jail, and Commander Crow is here with us.
Council, I move to approve the Correctional Center's request for an additional appropriation in Fund 1175-0000 misdemeanant in the amount of $10,000 in the services category. We didn't hear it, Jeff.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Hello, Commander Crow.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay. Thank you and for having me tonight. Appreciate it, council members. We're asking for an additional appropriation to renew and extend the warranty for our body scanner. We've had it 3 years now. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, but I think it's been a very useful tool for the correctional center. And as all of you know, with technology, there's a potential for a lot of things to go wrong. And with that being a relatively expensive piece of machinery, a tool, I think that it would be in our best benefit to extend that warranty in case anything does happen to it.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that information. Do we have any questions or comments from council? Yes, Ms. Welts?
Is this a 1-year extension?
Yes, it is. It'll be an annual extension from this point on.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Yes,
I don't have, I'm fine with the additional appropriation as is, but I wanted to thank Michelle for the kind of the analysis that she provided on the state of that fund. And I love having that kind of information coming for each of these requests. I think it's really been useful to us. And so please keep them coming. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michelle and I kind of discussed this a little bit earlier as well too. And that kind of analysis, I think, will really help us as we review upcoming budget requests as well too.
Yeah.
So that's very, very helpful. Any further questions, comments from council? Is there any public yeah, Ms. Hawk.
I just wanted to add on to that. It's essential because then we know if we can ask them to do some transferring around, and we should not be doing additional appropriations if it's not absolutely necessary. So yes, I appreciate all that information.
Yep, and I also should have mentioned earlier, Commander Crowe and I, well, he had brought this to our attention weeks ago, I believe, and he had requested a meeting with the liaisons to the jail, and so I had been aware of this, and I'd even contacted him late last week, or maybe as early this week, I forget when it was, to see if there were any opportunities for transferring it. This was one of those things that was deemed as absolutely necessary, so can totally understand that as well too. All right, we'll see if there's any public comment on the request. And seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
On the motion to approve an additional appropriation, Fund 1175-0000, Councilor McKim?
Yes.
Councilor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Councilor Munson?
Yes.
Councilor Hawk?
Yes.
Councilor Iverson?
Yes.
Councilor Deckard?
Yes.
Councilor Welts?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. All right, up next is item 12, our coroner's office.
Council, I move to approve the coroner's request for an additional appropriation in Fund 1000-0007, General Fund Coroner, in the amount of $75,000 in the services category.
Second.
All right, we have Coroner Joni Stalkup joining us tonight. Welcome.
Hello, Council. Again, thank you for your time this evening. So due to increase in, unfortunately, deaths in Monroe County that are being investigated by the coroner's office, I come to you and ask you for an additional appropriation for our autopsy line. Last year, my autopsy line was depleted and I had to ask for additional appropriations because we had an increase last year as well. I can't predict death, so when I do my budget, I was not predicting that we would hit another record year this year. I was hoping for just the opposite. So that being said, as I stated earlier this evening, We are currently at 190 investigated deaths through my office. This time last year, the exact date, we were at 151. That is the most Monroe County Coroner's Office has had coming through last year, 274. That's a lot for Monroe County. I see the trend remaining in an upward fashion. We have seen increase in, I can't directly relate it to COVID. Indirectly, I could say yes. Our overdose rate has increased. Natural deaths have increased that people aren't going to the doctor to be treated for. This past weekend alone, we had 12 in 4 days. So it ranged from natural to overdose, suicide, and motorcycle accidents. So this trend is not getting any better, unfortunately, for the county. And that's what this money is for. There's also been a raise in the facility fee at Terre Haute. They haven't raised their fee in 15 years. So they have raised their fee from $250 to $400 per case. And that's just for the use of the facility.
All right. Thank you very much. I saw Mr. McKim's hand first and then Mr. Iverson.
Thank you very much. What determines whether a death is investigated?
There's several factors. Anything unexplained, if they have not been treated or seen by a physician in the last 3 to 6 months, and a physician will not sign off on a death certificate or take responsibility for it, it becomes a coroner case. Not everybody that comes through the office gets an autopsy. There are circumstances where they do have medical history, but they have not been seen by a physician, or they're non-compliant, the physician refuses. Then it's up to the coroner to take responsibility for that. Not necessarily would I send all of them for an autopsy in that case. If it's a drug overdose, for instance, and it's pretty straightforward. You walk in, there's drug paraphernalia, there's drugs on scene, they have a history. I can do a toxicology screening on them and avoid an autopsy. If I ever have a question, I always call the pathologist and run it by them and consult with them, and they'll let me know if they feel like they need to come or not. So there's different factors for every case.
Thank you.
Mr. Iverson?
Ms. Stalkup, I'm glad you're here tonight, because as liaison to your department, we talked about some of these issues not too long ago. And one of the things that really struck me was that for these autopsies, it does require a trip to Terre Haute, and that can be very costly. How long has it been that way? And can we do any of these autopsies here in Monroe County?
It's been that way for as long as I've been a part of Monroe County Coroner's Office in 2009, but it was before that as well. Back when Bloomington Hospital was Bloomington Hospital, before IU Health took over, I believe back in George Huntington days, they did autopsies here at the hospital in the morgue. That stopped, that ended way back when, like I said, before me. The county above us, Morgan County, and the county below us, Lawrence County, they both have morgues. They both are equipped to have autopsies done there. I feel that Monroe County is a little behind when it comes to that. We do need our own facility. We're getting to the point we have times where the morgue at IU Health Hospital is overflowing. It just happened this weekend. I had a run, and I had someone's loved one in the back of the coroner's van with nowhere to take them because the morgue was too full. So I'm calling funeral homes, trying to make arrangements to have a funeral home house them until we can find a final place for them to go. That should not be happening. We are a little bit behind when it comes to somewhere where you can have a place to put these people until the families have a chance to absorb that they've lost a loved one, or somewhere they can wait until they get their autopsy and then be released to a funeral home. And it puts a little bit of a burden on the hospital when we're trying to get that done. So the county needs to move towards having their own facility. I mean, that's just obvious at this point.
And I have a second question, if that's all right, Mr. Spoonmore.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the assumptions that I think I have falsely made about our community is that the cheap and readily available heroin on the streets is a cause of death for those suffering from substance use disorder. But Ms. Stallcup, you kind of put me straight. Can you repeat what you told me about substance use disorder and what you're seeing?
It's not just heroin we're seeing, it's actually fentanyl. Fentanyl and methamphetamine are the two largest that we see in our drug toxicology screenings that we do on these overdose deaths. They're mixing fentanyl and methamphetamine together, and it creates a different type of high, but it's a very fatal high at the same time. So that being said, we see, like I said, it's not just your typical heroin that we're seeing. We're seeing fentanyl and methamphetamine.
Thank you for sharing that. I know this is difficult to talk about, but I really appreciate the work that you do for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm, after listening to the conversation, concerned about morgue space. We've got a hospital that is relocating soon, permanently. So I guess I have a few questions here. What is, with the existing morgue at the IU Health Hospital in its current location, is there plans for a new morgue at the new hospital?
Yes. So in order for a hospital to be compliant with like JCO, their governing body of safety, they have to have a morgue for their inpatients that pass away. There has to be a cooler of some sort for them to stay until a funeral home can pick them up. That being said, they have included providing some space. The problem being is the morgue is actually going to be smaller, according to what I've heard. And I say according to what I've heard is because nobody from the hospital has ever really reached out to me. It's through the patient care director at the hospital that I've talked with. So that being said, they're going to a different type of cooler system. It's not going to be a walk-in type cooler like they have now. It's going to be a drawer style cooler. And the room is actually going to be smaller than what they have. The one we have now is a walk-in cooler that will hold up to 6 deceased at one time.
Okay, and we don't know what the capacity of the new facility would be.
I was told by the patient care directors that it was going to be 8.
Okay.
But there's been many times we've had 8 and still need more space.
And when the capacity has been reached, that's when you contact the various funeral homes around the community to see if they have space?
Correct. Yes, I've had multiple different funeral homes in the county.
And do we pay them for that?
No, actually, they just donate the space. As long as it's not an extended period of time, they just donate it to me. I work really well with all of the funeral homes here locally. And when I get in a spot where I need help, they usually offer it up if I call. So,
but that's not something that we can count on in the future. Okay.
No, it's not something that would be a permanent solution for it. No.
And so you're saying that we need a county-owned type of facility?
I do. Yes. It's time we have our own facility, our own morgue, whether it be just a place that we can put a decedent until they can go to autopsy or to a funeral home, or whether it be a place we can actually perform autopsies. And I would like to see eventually Monroe County have a place where an autopsy could be performed here. It would save the county overall money. My budget right now is $130,000 in my autopsy line. That covers the actual autopsy fee and the facility fee. And I've already depleted that this year.
Okay. Well, yeah, again, thank you very much. I was not aware of, how of what the situation was shaping up to be, and what the statistics were looking like here. But I think it's certainly deserving of a lot of people's attention right now. Ms. Wiltz, did you have a question or a comment?
Yes, actually, it's a comment. And yeah, sorry, it's sobering, all of it. Actually, since we've been in this meeting, I got a text from someone who unfortunately had an interaction with the coroner, one of the deputies this afternoon, and just wanted to pass along that the text I got said that this person had the perfect balance of providing facts and expressing concern, and was really amazing in helping with the whole process. So I just wanted to pass that along and let you know that.
Thank you very much. I know exactly who it was. It's my Chief Deputy Coroner, Jeff Hall.
Thank you, Ms. Wiltz. Do we have any other questions? Or yeah, Mr. Deckard.
I was just going to do a quick comment. I appreciate the coroner coming. I think these are numbers that we needed to hear, and I also think this was information we needed to be thinking about, and we've got a lot here to figure out with our coroner in her leadership. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions or comments on the request from the coroner's office? Do we have any public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Motion to approve an additional appropriation in Fund 1000-0007. Councilor Munson?
Yes.
Councilor Deckard?
Yes.
Councilor Hawk?
Yes.
Councilor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Councilor Iverson?
Yes.
Councilor Wiltz?
Yes.
Councilor McKim?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, items 13 and 14 were tabled earlier to the September, or postponed to the September 28th work session. We'll now move on to item 15.
Council, I move to approve the July 10, 2021 regular session minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on approval of minutes. Do we have any edits, changes, modifications to the minutes as presented? One of these days, we're going to have somebody with some changes to the minutes. I know it. By the time I'm done. Yeah. Mr. McKim.
Since we're making comments about this, actually, just as a matter of procedure, we actually don't need to take a vote on the minutes. I mean, that's actually pretty standard rules of order. Actually, we can come up with a script where the president asks, or the chair asks, if there are any amendments, and the minutes stand approved. That's actually not a vote we actually have to take. So
sounds good to me.
That's
right.
good to know. I'll work on that moving forward.
That'll be incorporated into the very next agenda. Thank you, Mr. McKim. Hopefully it'll be a permanent.
Say that for like 12 years. So.
Hopefully it'll be a permanent fixture going forward. Hopefully it'll be one of my great legacies. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
For the purposes that we'll stick with the status quo this time and go ahead and vote, and then next time we'll have a new process. Is there any public comment on the minutes? Okay, seeing none. Ms. Miller, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
All right, Councilor Munson?
Yes.
Councilor Iverson? Councilor McKim?
Yes.
Councilor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Councilor Hawk? Not present. Councilor Deckard?
Yes.
Councilor Wiltz?
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Okay, very good. Up next is item 16, our boards and commissions. We do still have a vacancy on the Women's Commission. And I've got some leads on this, so hopefully we'll have some more information and get this one filled here soon. More to come on that at a future meeting. And so that will wrap up that. Do we have any, item 17 is council comments. Do we have any council members who would like to provide comment? Mr. McKim and then Ms. Hawk.
Very briefly, just that I did correct the error in my spreadsheet that Ms. Munson had discovered and the typo, and everything should be saved in the Dropbox. So Michelle can also use that to send to the other units and fulfillment of our responsibilities as she wants, and everybody has access to them.
I was going to ask if I could forward that information on. I always like to make sure first. So.
Yep, I closed them and saved it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hawk.
Yes, a message from Van Buren trustee Rita Barrow to notify folks that she will have her office open with assistance there at 5:30 tomorrow. Having to do with the meeting with the city regarding annexation. So for any person who wishes to make a comment or to need assistance in providing Zoom information and being able to comment to the city council, that they can go to the Van Buren trustee's office and do that there, and there'll be people there to help them do that. And remember, the Van Buren trustee's office is directly across from that fire station on Curry Road. And it's a white building directly across from the fire station.
Yes, thanks, Councilor Hawk, for that important information. And yes, it is another important meeting tomorrow where the city council will be discussing annexation and opportunity. My understanding is you can actually show up to the city hall and make comment this time, but it will be through a Zoom platform. I don't think the city council members will be present, but you will have the opportunity to actually be there and make comment this time at City Hall. So for any county residents who may want to do that, you'll have that opportunity. And we'll learn more about what the outcome will be of annexation in the coming weeks and months. But I know it's been a lot going on. Any other comments from council members before we adjourn this evening? Okay, we'll see none. We'll adjourn this meeting, and we'll see you all for the work session later this month. Have a good night.